36 minutes after 6 o'clock. Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. You just heard what's happening at Sapa this weekend. Well, guess what? At Napa, we have a whole other show that's going on. And this morning, I want to welcome the conductor of the National Philharmonic Orchestra, Dr. Roger J. Henry. He joins us on set to discuss Spirit of a People, Calypso Rising. Good morning, Dr.
Good
Henry.
morning. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing this morning?
I am just fine.
Are you ready?
Are you
ready? Caffeinated and ready?
I'm caffeinated and ready.
All right. So, well, you've been conducting the NPO, the National Philharmonic Orchestra, for the past 9
years.
9 years. How has that journey been for you?
It's been very interesting. The thing I admire, I like most about the journey we've been on is the growth of the orchestra. You know, it started with something that was very indeterminate in its mission and even in its outcome at the time, because when it started, it was just an experiment.
Right.
And so the orchestra has grown in size, the members have grown in their talent and their skill, and the repertoire has grown in focus. So we're really focusing on building a sound that is a Trinidadian sound, because we have no history of a symphonic sound that's Trinidadian.
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest with you, Dr. Henry, in the earlies of the NPO.
No, I want you to lie. Go on.
In the earlies of the NPO, I was confused because I was like, you know, we have this wide breadth of music.
Right.
But then, you know, I kept hearing the NPO doing like, you know, Mozart and that kind of thing, you know, William Tell and all sorts of, you know, nice classical pieces that symphonic orchestras around the world do. And I always wondered what stood out about us. What was the moment that made that transition? Or what did it take to get from just doing all these international pieces to get that focus to say we're going to do more local pieces?
Well, to be honest with you, I was
no
a little green. Okay. See that? It's never fun when it comes back at you.
Right?
Yeah. So at the start, I was trying to establish this entity as a symphony, as an orchestra. You know, if you're going to play football, all you can do is take a football and run with it. You understand? You don't change the ball.
Right.
So the idea was get this thing on its feet, get the people playing, and find repertoire to perform.
Was it difficult to find the repertoire?
That's exactly the point. So it's difficult to find repertoire for a Trinidadian orchestra because there is no repertoire for a Trinidadian orchestra. The repertoire that exists is from the people who have been writing for orchestras for centuries.
Right.
So we played a lot of the music that was already written for orchestras. So as time went on and the need became apparent, it was easy to say, well, it's time for us to start to celebrate our own sound and celebrate our own melodies. And so my first experiment, everything I've done as a composer has been as an experiment to see, well, can it be done?
Right.
And so I did a symphonic interpretation of 1990 by David Rudder.
Right.
And it was received very well by the audience. And the people that talked about it said that they never imagined that a calypso could sound so. And it made them feel pride in being Trinidadian.
Right.
That's the impetus that came to me to continue doing this, presenting these melodies that are ours in a context that is unfamiliar to people but still exciting. Because I start from this idea that people are people, first of all, and music is universal.
Right.
Music is not the European people music or the Trinidad people music or the African people music or the Indian people music. It is universal. If you are human, you make music. So setting that on its pedestal, we now have this situation where we live in a space in the world and a time, and we have shared values, we have a shared historical experience here, we have cultural habits here, and we have a sound world, and that sound world involves all kinds of different instruments. So as we start to think about what is a symphonic sound that is Trinidadian, the big sister culturally is the panorama.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask. It's like we've been doing music for pan, right?
Classical music
Classical
too.
music on
And when
pan.
I say, sorry to cut across here.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
But when I say classical music, I'm talking about panorama,
Right.
I'm not talking about when we take the same old classical music and put it on the pan.
So you're talking about like Kitchener
I'm
and
talking
Sparrow
about
and
Jit Samaru and Smooth and all these people who are writing classical music using the pre-existing soca and calypso songs as their source material.
Right. So then, was it difficult then to transpose that stuff or translate? I don't know was the right musical term. Forgive me, but to get it from being written for steel pan versus being written for Philharmonic Orchestra.
Well, it's a big experiment.
Right.
Right. It's a big experiment in finding a sound that feels authentic, because what are the elements of musical sound that we think of as Trinidadian?
Right.
And if you hear a violin playing, that's not an element of musical sound that we automatically think of as Trinidadian.
But we have the fiddle.
We have the fiddle. It's the same instrument, right? Different name.
Right.
But when the ordinary person thinks of a sound that is a Trinidadian sound, the violin doesn't jump into people's head.
Right. Okay.
Right? The oboe doesn't jump into people's head.
No, it really doesn't.
So, but what I have been doing is saying, first of all, musicians make music with the instruments they have to hand. There's no requirement, if I'm a Trinidadian, there's no requirement that I use a guitar or a piano or a pan. Right? There's no requirement. I'm a musician. Right? The music is inside of me. The instrument I use is only to externalize the music that's already in me. Doesn't matter what the instrument is. So, in that regard, people ask me all the time, why are they playing those instruments? Why do they play the pan? And then I say to them, well, you know, why don't we just have only guitar? Right? Only guitar. We can only play guitar music for the rest of time.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. Okay. But has the orchestra themselves, like the members of the orchestra, have they responded differently when you introduced more local music?
Yes. A lot of people, it was a little confusing at first. Not in a bad way, in a curious way. And I think once people saw that the audience was relating to this music, it made them excited about it and made them also proud to be Trinidadians. And again, learning from our big sister culture, the panorama, there is a way that pan people play the instrument. It's not about the tones, right? The whole body, the whole being is involved in playing the instrument.
There's a performance,
right? And it's not just that. It's a lived experience, more than just a performance.
Right.
And the people who play, they are transported, and their bodies are involved. And how many times have you seen one of those international symphonies, and as beautifully as they play, and they do play beautifully,
expressionless.
But you wouldn't be able to tell it from just looking at. If you turn off the volume and you just look at them, you don't know what you're dealing with. Right?
That's not the same for panorama.
It's not the same for panorama.
It's what's been happening with NPO.
And with the NPO, the idea is, if that's your model, this is the wrong place for you.
Right.
You have to allow the music to suffuse your being and let your body respond to it. Because if you're not enjoying it, the audience isn't going to enjoy it either.
And I want the audience to enjoy it. So tell us a little bit about Spirit of Our People, when it's happening, what's the cost, timing, all that good stuff.
Good. Spirit of the People happens this Saturday and Sunday, the 11th and 12th, at Napa, 7 p.m., both evenings. We're keeping it simple.
Right.
It is a beautiful show of melodies that have been created by Trinidadian people, interpreted in different ways.
Right. And it's interpreted all for the National Philharmonic Orchestra.
All interpreted for the National Philharmonic Orchestra. And I want to mention, in a previous segment, you were talking about national icon Kitchener, right? I want to talk about Desmond Waith.
Right.
So Desmond Waith is a national icon of his own. And for decades, everywhere you go in this country and you talk about music, people know the name Desmond Waith. And I have composed a new piece that's called For Desmond. And we premiered the piece at the close of the music festival last week. And we're going to play it in this concert as well. Because Desmond was a real mentor and pioneer. and he was an influence to me.
Right.
And, you know, he did with choirs. A lot of people know him for his work in Pan.
Yeah.
But he did with choirs what, you know, Ajit Samaru or any of those fantastic arrangers did with Pan. He took Calypso music and he created a genre. He typified a genre called the Calypso chorale.
Okay.
Right? And built that thing over decades. There are other people who do it. He's not the only one.
Right.
But in terms of the prolific nature of his work and the high quality of his work.
And then the heavy influence on you.
Heavy influence on me. So we are including a couple. There's that new piece, and we're also doing a treatment of King Lear, which is Desmond's favorite song, based on his choral arrangement that he created for the marionettes.
Okay.
So it's for me, it's a very meaningful time in my life as I kind of pay tribute to this man that has been such a mentor to me for almost all my life, and also a fantastic opportunity for people to come and hear songs, melodies of Trinidad and Tobago. And as I was saying to the orchestra last night, it's not about we're not bringing the audience here to create an existential moment. You know, there's some performances like that. All we want to do is present something to the national community where people come, they sit down, they feel warm, included, seen, and comfortable. And that's what this performance is going to do. It's all local melodies. People know all the melodies. And you can sit down, tap your foot, go to sleep if you want to. Right? That's what we're there for. Tickets are $75 for adults.
I was just going to ask about the tickets.
I know. I saw the look in your eyes. Right? $75 for adults and $30 for children.
Okay.
You can get tickets from the Napa box office. Just call them, 223-1210. Okay. 223-1210. Remember the number.
223-1210.
Very good.
Yeah? All right. The NPO is live at Napa this weekend, the 11th and 12th, Saturday and Sunday from 7 p.m. Spirit of a People, Calypso Rising. I assume my song in the mix too.
That is in the mix.
Calypso Rising in the mix too. So you want to head down to Napa this weekend, the National Philharmonic Orchestra. Thank you so much, Dr. Henry, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And all the best this weekend. I know it's going to be a fantastic show.
Thank you very much.
Take care. All right, guys, we take a quick break, and when we come back, we have some more men in business we're chatting with. So stay tuned, yeah?